Buy now, pay later. Sounds harmless, right? 4 easy payments, no interest, no credit impact. Today we're going to talk about what buy now, pay later actually does to your credit and overall debt, because this is one of the most understood money products out there. So welcome back to Credit New 101, where we break these things down without judgment. So today's presentation, we're going to be talking about buy now, pay later, how it really affects your credit and debt. I am your host and creator, Jeria Donaldson Riley. I am also a financial translator, a housing counselor, a HUD-approved housing counselor, and I have over 26 years in the affordable housing and financial industry. So let's get right into it. So buy now, pay later, or BNPL as they're also called. Typically, they're going to split your purchase into smaller payments. And those payments are going to be due, bi-weekly or monthly. A lot of times these are very easy products to access. Um, Typically, they're not going to impact your credit directly. They may impact indirectly, but typically not directly, and we'll dive a little more into that. And as stated, oftentimes there's no interest, or sometimes there's not even an APR fee. So, but what's most important to understand about these type of things is that even these buy now, pay later, they are still considered short-term installment debt. So anytime we're dealing with debt or installment debts, things like that, we always have the potential to, to overextend ourselves because it is still credit. So we just want to make sure that we understand how these products operate, what their terms are, and some caution things to be aware of. As I always say, there's not necessarily bad products, but if we don't understand the products and we don't understand the pros and cons of products, this is how we get ourselves into trouble. Okay, so we want to talk about how does BNPL impact or affect your credit. Well, as stated, it doesn't really directly impact your credit, but there can be consequences from using the product that can impact your credit. For instance, if you had a $800 bill and you used one of those services, and now that $800 bill was split into 8 payments for $100 for 8 months, now your overall debt might have increased, whereas you didn't have that $800 credit bill and now you do. So these are some of the things, and this is what we mean by it can and might impact your credit. So that's not directly impacting your credit, but it could indirectly impact your overall score or your affordability and your purchase power, depending on what you're trying to go for. So some of the things that will cause it to not impact your credit definitely is if you pay those payments on time. And typically with these type of products, that's how you're also going to be able to get access to additional credit. You'll make your payments on time, if not pay them off sooner, or make extra payments along with your payment. So your pay history is really what's going to be your credit history for these type of products. And make sure you fully understand the plan before agreeing. Each one of these products, they provide you about a 10-page breakdown of the terms. Some of it's that small print, but you definitely have time to go through that and to look and to make sure that you agree and that you understand all of the terms that are being required and all of the responsibilities that you may have. As stated here at the bottom of the slide, it may or may not show up on your credit, but that's the risk that you're taking of that may or may not. Or read your terms and it will advise you if it's going to be reported on your credit report or not. And typically payment plans that are over that 4 month, anything from that 6 months on past 12 months, those are things that are probably going to be on your credit, and especially the balance. If they're higher balances or bigger balances, those are probably going to show up on your credit. Okay. Okay, so when can it impact your credit? So it can definitely impact your credit if you miss that payment and now they submit this account, that BNPL unpaid balance, to a collection agency. that can definitely impact. Now it's negatively impacting your credit. If it's a long term BNPL, that can impact your credit. So if you're doing one that, there are some that do go 18 months in more. So if you're doing longer terms with a higher balance, things like that, that could impact your credit because it could show that you're a high risk. You're overextending yourself. So those are some things to monitor yourself before you use these products. Make sure you know where you stand in your debt to income ratio. You know how much money is going into your household versus how much money that's going out. You want to have a clear understanding of your monthly spending plan so that you can know if it's wise for me to use this product or not. Okay. And as stated too, here at the bottom, that typically those longer plans are going to be viewed definitely as installment loans. Okay. Okay, and as it says here, some of the sneaky parts for most people is that it doesn't show up on your credit report. So, people think out of sight, out of mind. But remember, anytime you're going for credit or applying for credit, that lender slash creditor can still see what the impact of these type of products. So they may be able to see that you have, 4 or 5 of these out at the same time. And why do you have this type of product? Why do you have so many payment plans out at once? Even though you might be current, you might even pay them off sooner, but that could be a concern or a red flag for the creditor or lender that you're trying to apply credit for. So making sure that you fully understand the impact, reading that 10-page document that they give you before you agree to the terms of the plan, making sure that you fully understand what committing yourself to and what the impact of using this type of product can be. Okay, so on this slide, we really want to talk about, the overall debt that these products, because they're oftentimes they're smaller payments, so we as consumers, we don't feel that burden of having to pay it because it's broken into so many different payments. But in this example here on this slide, we have 4 BNPL scenarios, and for now a total of 155 a month that's going out. So in this case, let's say it's me, I hadn't planned on 155 going out every month. I planned on maybe 40 going out, 30, because I didn't group those together. I saw those as individual. And those are some of the things that get you in trouble when you look at these things as individual instances as opposed to actual installment debts. These are not instances. These are not experiences that you're paying off, or a you went to dinner and you're paying it off on your credit card, but these are actual short-term installment loans, and they're being treated and looked as so by some of the lenders. So you just want to be fully aware that you understand what's on your credit report, you understand what your debt load is, and you understand what your income is, not your gross, your net income that you have coming in, how much money you have coming into your household versus how much you have going out in monthly expenses. Okay, so this, in this type of example right here, I wouldn't feel it necessarily maybe that first month because they were small enough payment, but as time goes on and as this debt becomes heavier and more burdensome, and I've added others onto it, it can become a problem for me to remain current. Okay, so just some things to be aware of. Just because those payments are small doesn't mean that they don't add up. Okay, so we want to talk about buy now, pay later versus credit cards. So, as stated several times, typically there's 0% interest rate, sometimes zero APR. With our credit cards, there can be a higher balance sometimes. Easy approval. Normally, it's not even impacting your actual credit to check to see if you qualify for it. With a credit card, this is going to build your credit and make you a stronger, more informed consumer if you use it correctly. And actually, I can really say the same about the buy now, pay later. Um, it's easy to stack too much debt. I think that's very key. With the buy now, pay later, you can easily get yourself into trouble by having 5 or 6 different plans out and not keeping track of them. and not being aware, keeping track of them in the different apps. Because if you have one for Affirm, your PayPal is not going to show on there, and you might only be counting your Affirm debt, but not counting your PayPal. So you want to make sure that you're actually keeping track. You're not just going off of that app or off of your memory, but you're actually keeping track of the payments, and you know how much is going out monthly. Okay. Now, as I said, oftentimes there aren't bad financial products. It's just that sometimes the wrong consumer gets the wrong product. So these are definitely instances where this would make sense. If you already have the money, but maybe, you know, uh, for instance, a trip, you don't want to have cash with you because it could easily be lost or what have you, and just better to track. So you might use something like this that can better help manage your money and keep you on budget for something like a trip. As stated here, it spaces out cash flow so that way your money isn't just tied up, but you're able to meet other needs if you need to and still manage your debt. This typically 0% interest debt, and it makes it a little more affordable for you to do some other things with your cash. And if you're replacing high interest debt, so maybe using something like this would be more uh, a better option than using something like a credit card that would definitely have that high interest rate. Whereas typically with these type of products, there's either some type of promotion or zero interest or zero APR. So oftentimes those end up being upfront. They end up being the cheaper product, but over time they can definitely turn into the most expensive one. So you just want to make sure that you have these type of things in place and that it makes sense to use that product. Okay, when it's a bad idea, definitely a red flag is when you're using it for everyday expenses. So if you're using it to cover groceries, or you're using it not necessarily gas, because I typically tell people you can even purchase gas. That's something we have to, most of us have to do, and pay it off. You were going to do it anyway, but definitely like groceries and utilities, things like that you should be able to handle typically on your own. If you're using it to cover those type of things, then that's normally a red flag, and that means that you probably should stop. You don't want to get another plan and get yourself back in trouble, but you want to pay off those plans that you've already had and get yourself out of this cycle of using these type of products. Um, and like I said, if you're using multiple plans, if you have more than three, I definitely would say that's really a red flag. There's no reason why you really should have more than one of these type of products, but more than three, that's a good indication that now you're using this as a everyday financial tool, and that is not the purpose or intent of this type of product. It is used as needed for certain occasions when you're trying to do larger purchases. Um, and then a good rule of thumb, uh, if you wouldn't buy it today in cash, then BPL is probably not the option for you. And really, I think that's really a good rule of thumb to just consider whether at any time when you want to use one of these products. Do I have the money for it today? Because if I have the money for it today and I can save a little bit, then that makes sense. But if I don't have the money for it today and I still want it and I still use this product, then that's normally a red flag that I might not be the consumer that's right for that type of product, because I'm not using it the correct way and there's potential to actually do more harm to myself. So, these are just some things that you want to keep in mind. Uh, these products and services are here for us, but we want to make sure that we're using them the correct way and that we're getting the intended benefit from it and not doing harm for ourselves. Okay, and practical tips for credit noobs. Um, treat BPL, buy now pay later plans as a credit card, and keep that under that 30%. Really, I say 25%. Credit. So you might want to keep in your overall monthly spending plan. You don't want this category to be, honestly, I would even say more than 15% of your budget. You don't want more than 15% of your budget going to buy now, pay later plans. If it's more than that, that's normally a red flag, and you're probably entering some dangerous territories, okay? Avoid stacking those plans. The thing about these products is that oftentimes you can have as many plans with the same creditor as allowed until you reach a certain threshold. So that becomes very dangerous because there's not really a mechanism in place for you to stop yourself. You just keep getting approved because you're at a different store. So now that's a new plan, things like that. So make sure that you're not, as I stated, you don't want more than 3 at any one time. Okay. And read that fine print. Yes, that those papers can get up to about 10 pages of just information. Take the time to read that information, or if nothing else, you can even download the document into chat or AI and ask for a summary if you're not for sure how to read that document. There's so many tools that are out here for us in today's world that really, knowledge is truly power, and we can really access anything that we have questions about. So I really encourage you, take your credit card contracts and paperwork, run it through your AIs and your chats, and do summary of document, so that way it can break it down into a language that you can understand, and then seek help if you need more help breaking it down or what have you. In closing, I would like to say that buy now, pay later is not evil. As I said, there are no such things as bad products. There may be wrong consumers for wrong products, um, but you want to make sure you understand the terms and you understand what product you're using. Knowledge is credit power. Um, so I hope that this video has been very helpful. Please subscribe to Credit New 101. If you have a comment or question, please shoot me a message. That's not a problem, and I'll definitely will get back to you. But look for these more topics like these and helpful tips on this channel of Credit New 101 with Jaria Donaldson Riley. And see you guys next time.